You are listening to the Million Dollar Coach Business Podcast with Amanda Karlstad, episode number 274.
Welcome to the Million Dollar Coach Business Podcast, a show for coaches who are ready to up-level their business and take their impact, leadership, and results to $1 million level and beyond. If you're ready to break through your limitations and start taking powerful action and become the seven-figure version of you that your business needs in order to grow, scale, and thrive, this show is for you. I'm your host, Amanda Karlstad, master coach, high-level business mentor and advisor, master intuitive, and business growth and scaling expert. Let's get down to business.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It's so good to be here. Happy New Year. It's so good to be back with you all. I hope you had a fantastic holiday season and that your new year is off to a great start. I love the new year and the energy of the new year. And I know so many of you are really ready to make this year, 2025, a breakthrough year. And if that's you, you are in the right place. So I want to say last week, you may have noticed that there wasn't an episode. And I want to tell you all that that was very intentional. I actually decided, and this was a first for me, in over 5 years of podcasting, of releasing at this point, we're on episode 274. So we are just shy, my friends, of 300 episodes that I actually chose intentionally not to release an episode last week. And I want to share with you why. The why is because the conversation I really wanted to have with all of you, which is the conversation I'm having with you today, felt too important. And the truth is that, and you might hear this already in my voice, but I've been fighting off something for the last week and a half. And when I looked at my schedule and what it was going to take to get the episode out, coming off of break, coming off of all of the travel, coming off of the holidays and all of the things that were going on, we had sicknesses kind of bookend on both end of the break with our kids. I just decided that I needed to really honor my own energy and I needed to honor this conversation. So for the first time in over 5 years, I made the decision to not record a podcast episode because I wanted this episode to have the space. I wanted myself to have the space to have this conversation. And I just decided to give myself permission to do that. So I share this because something I am really proud of is the fact that I have, with the exception of last week, that I haven't missed 1 week in over 5 years of producing and releasing this podcast. And while there is so much right now that I want to talk to you all about, and I'm really excited to bring to you this year in this podcast, I also really needed to honor my own energy. And I wanted to share that with you and just give you a bit of permission as well in case you're needing that in the moment. And so maybe take a look at where you may need to give yourself your own permission. Maybe just a bit of permission as well. I think it's a really powerful place to start in the new year. And for me, it's just a powerful energy to bring into this new year. All right, so let's get into it. So what I want to talk to you all about today are some things that I'm seeing in terms of what I would call trends in the online coaching, consulting / education industry. And so these are things that I would kind of categorize as trends or predictions as we're moving into this new year that I think are really important for you all to consider. So as you think about this year for yourself and you think about this year for your business, and you at this point have likely set, or at least you've been considering what your goals are this year, I want to bring to you today some of the really big trends that I'm seeing as we're moving into this new year. And again, specifically in our coaching industry. And when I look at this list, there are things that I have observed for quite some time. There are things that I have been coaching and teaching on for really many years at this point. And I think we're also at a point today where these things are also non-negotiables. And what I mean by that is as I look across our industry and as I think about my own experience, as I look at the work that I do with our clients day in and day out, I do think we're now at a point that unless you are truly implementing and executing these things in your business, and again, there will always be exceptions to this. I do want to make that point. I don't believe there's ever 100% in either direction. I do recognize that there will be exceptions to this. But by and large, for most of you listening here, and for most in the coaching space that are building coaching practices, and specifically in the online space, I think these are all things that are non-negotiables that you must, at a minimum, start to consider for your own business. And I would say ideally, you want to be working to implement and expanding upon these things as we move into the new year. So let's go ahead and dive in. So the first trend is, and there seems to be more and more conversations around this, but is around the concept of recurring revenue. Now, this is something that since the beginning of launching my practice and over the last 6 to 7 years as I have coached my clients is something that I've absolutely very much believe in and has very much been a part of my own business and a part of my teachings and a part of my coaching practice with my clients. And it's absolutely something that I believe is vital to the health of any business. And so what I mean when I say recurring revenue, that means you have recurring revenue built into your business to where you're covering at a very minimum your expenses in the business on a monthly basis. And of course, ideally, we would want much more than that. But there's a few reasons this is so important because when you have this built into your business, it does a number of things. And one of the things that I have observed to be one of the most important things that it does is that it helps you to make better and more focused and less reactive decisions as a business owner. It allows you to actually make what I call $1 million decisions in your business, which are from a very non-emotional and from a very highly emotionally intelligent place. Versus when you are in this place, you so often are making decisions that are instead purely reactive based on needing to sell X amount for the month in order to, for example, to at minimum cover your expenses, not to mention anything else. You know, it's like starting the month at zero. And this is a very, very hard place to operate your business from. So I want to give you an example of this. One of the common things that I see over and over when clients in general come to work with me is that typically when they have hit that 6 or multi-6-figure level, generally they've done things that are kind of more through a traditional launch type model where maybe they've started their program or they've sold their program and they are kind of on a live launch model. And that can be good because it allows them to bring in some cash. It allows them to create a level of cash injection. But depending on their offer and how they have positioned it, it also, and I see this over and over for many, many coaches, it creates this environment where they're 100% reliant on those launches throughout the year. And if they're doing, 3, maybe 4, some do less, some do more, it all depends. What can happen is that while that cash injection is happening during those launch seasons, but the other 9 or 8 months of the year or whatever amount of months that is, they're generally not enrolling into their programs and they typically don't have a large enough or a sufficient enough base of incoming recurring revenue month over month that they have built into the business. So what happens is it creates a situation where it feels like emotionally for many of them where they're in fact starting many months from zero. And again, this is a very hard place to operate your business from. So one of the things that I do with all of our clients right away is really look at how can we shift or how can we create more of that recurring revenue into the business so that ultimately it will free up you as the coach, as the business owner to really essentially get out of fight or flight mode in your business, to be able to look intentionally at your business and be so much more strategic, so much more sustainable in your decision making, And it quite frankly will be the experience that you will then have in the incoming 6 to 12 months. So one of the things that I've talked about here on this podcast is that there is always a leg in business. And what that means is any decisions that you're making today in the business in general, you will probably feel some initial results from those decisions today. And you're probably really going to feel the consequences of those decisions in 6 to 12 months from now. So a great example of this that I see happen a lot would be, let's say that you decide to create a new offer in your business. Maybe you've been feeling a bit stale in your business. Maybe you are even a little bit bored of your current offer. And maybe you've had a few clients, or maybe you've had people just reaching out and wondering if you did or could offer, a certain thing. And so because of that, you decided to create a new program. And while you might be able to, pull that together and launch that and be able to generate some quick cash and to create essentially a quick cash injection in your business, the reality is that unless you then also build out a solid and consistent marketing structure around that offer, you're probably not going to see much beyond that initial cash injection. And that might be okay for you, right? Where I see this come to be a really big problem is when this is the pattern. And so this also becomes a real problem if you have a signature program that you've been really trying to get the marketing, the sales system dialed in around that program for some time. And I see this come up a lot where for a lot of coaches, when they have a signature program and they're trying to get all of that dialed in, and they start to, get a little bit needy and want to create these new offers and throw out these new offers to kind of create that cash injection. Problem with that is, again, 6 months down the road, by not really doing the harder work of dialing in that marketing, dialing in that selling, really staying present with that, you're going to feel the effects of that. At which point, ultimately, your brain is probably going to offer to you, hey, let's create another offer. Let's push it out. Let's create some more cash, because ultimately that's what you know how to do. And that's where you have success. And it's very important to recognize, if you can relate to this, your brain, your subconscious are always looking for different ways to keep you safe. So if you have a track record of being able to do that, I've worked with a lot of clients throughout the years who have actually had a track record of being able to kind of pull together quick offers really in a fairly short amount of time, be able to put them out to their audience, sell that offer, but then find themselves really in the same boat that they were before they did that. So what will happen is, and it's important to recognize, is that your brain, of course, is going to offer that up as a solution. It's going to offer that up as, hey, that's the best solution, right? Because you have a track record of that. That's a way that you can create that quick cash. But what I am saying in the context of creating this real solid recurring revenue in your business. And so I want you to consider, for all of you listening, you all have the ability, it's all available to you, for all of you listening, to be able to create revenue on a level where you can walk into each month with 10,000, 15K, 20K, 30K or more in recurring revenue consistently each and every month. It will change the game completely for you. And I want you to really consider that. Consider how you would feel if that was your experience, if that was your business. Consider the difference that would make in your nervous system as a business owner. Consider how expansive that would actually be for you. Consider what that would actually open up for you in so many different ways. So this is why this has always been a focus of mine. It's always been a goal of mine to help all of my clients install this to, whatever degree in their business, depending on their goals, depending on what their business looks like. And I will tell you that when I did this, and I did this very early on, but this is what changed the game for me. It has changed the game for me over the course of the last several years, and it's changed the game for so many of our clients. So I really want to encourage you all to really be thinking about shifting into more of a recurring revenue model. Not to say that you can't be doing launches, but really shifting more into that recurring revenue model in your business. And so that you can create that level of financial stability, which again is something that I've always believed in, and it will do wonders for you as a business owner. So I think now more than ever that this is a non-negotiable. So just as the algorithms, as in marketing in general, has experienced a massive shift, especially in the last 12 to 24 months, if the trend is that we continue down that path, it's really important just to be installing this and be building this and be working towards building this recurring revenue into your business. Even if you haven't operated this way before, even if you're on a launch model, it's something that I love helping our clients do for so many reasons. All right. The next trend or prediction that I'm going to make for 2025 is around brand and positioning. Now, again, this is something that has been in all of my curriculum from day one. I have a very specific exercise that all of my clients go through to get really clear on this from the get-go. But I will tell you that now more than ever, I believe that your brand, and when I say brand, I'm not just talking about your colors and your logo and your, website design. Yes, those do have influence, but what I'm really talking about here is what is the messaging that you're bringing? What is the positioning, right? What is the feel? What is the emotion that you're bringing into the market with your brand? This matters now more than ever, and here's why. We live in a very noisy world. We live in a world where we, including potential clients, are inundated with marketing. In fact, I mentioned this on a recent podcast, but recent studies have shown that the average American is exposed to between, and this blew my mind, 4,000 to 10,000 ads every day. This is every day, my friends. This is not like in a week, in a month. This is daily. And according to Google, this is due because of the rise of digital advertising on platforms like Google, like Facebook, like Instagram, all of the places. And if you consider this, ads are really everywhere, including if you turn on the TV, ads are going to be on TV. They're going to be in restaurants. They're going to be in airports. They're going to be, if you're traveling somewhere, they're going to be in bars, right? Radio, you can expect, and this was an interesting statistic, if you're listening to the radio, you can expect to hear about 20 ads per hour. Billboards, if you consider billboards, there's thousands and thousands of billboards across our country. You drive down the road, if you look at any retail location, every shop window, there's signage, there's advertising. If you go to the movies, right? I don't know about you, but I took my kids to a movie over break. I was shocked at how long just the initial ads went on. I was literally like looking at the clock, like another one. And while they were all really interesting and good, that took about 15 to 20 minutes. And that's the average. If you think about what comes in the mail, 48, almost 50% of our mail is junk mail, right? Newspapers, magazines, when you get on your laptop every day, they are everywhere, not to even include what we see on our phones on a daily basis. So the list goes on. So what does this mean? I don't know about you, but unless I see an ad or a brand that hooks me, that initially, from the get-go, it resonates deeply with me, the truth is that I'm probably not going to pay attention to it. The truth is that I'm probably going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep on keeping on. And I had a recent personal example of this that was pretty profound for me to experience, and I want to share it. So what happened was I recently opened an email from a service that I belong to. This is actually the software for my exercise bike. And the headline of the email totally hooked me. And I don't have that email in front of me, but I just remember whatever it said, it spoke directly to my problem. It spoke directly to me. And I remember it was just like an immediate, click, right? It hooked me in. And what it ended up being is it was an email about a new program that they were collaborating with, I don't know if the right term would be influencer or coach. I'm not really sure, actually. I haven't looked so much into her background, but it was essentially a collaboration that they were doing with this, we'll just say coach, on a new exercise program that she was offering. And it was specifically for women in their 40s who, as many of you know listening, when you're in your 40s, there are new things that we start to experience in our metabolism, in our hormones, in all sorts of things. And I remember clicking to the sales page to look at the offer, to look at the actual program, because the copy in the email was also really good. And so I remember when I clicked on the link that then led me to the sales page, immediately I was attracted. I was like hooked in. I was brought into this beautiful brand, to a beautiful, very sophisticated feel of a program. And as I started to read the sales page, I got even more hooked because to me, this was just such a beautiful example of the feel of that page, the vibe of that, the energy of that. It was just a beautiful example of nailing the brand. And also the copy was really good. And the pain points that they were talking to were exactly my experience. So they really, really nailed the message. They really nailed what I call the $1 million message, and also really nailed what I would consider to be an irresistible program. And so just to give you a sense of what the program was, it was a comprehensive program that was built specifically for women like myself, women in my age bracket, that included 4 very specific categories that I've been on a bit of a health journey myself over the past couple of years. And so I am a pretty well-versed buyer. I'm a pretty savvy buyer when it comes to this. I've done some of my own work already. I'm pretty educated when it comes to this topic, we'll just say. So I knew from experience that there are certain key aspects to this process that are really important. So not only are we talking to a very specific and a very different type of exercise like this program was, but talking very specifically to a diet that meets the nutritional needs of someone like myself, that also included very specific supplements for someone like myself. And it was all laid out essentially in like a 30-day plan, end to end, on what exercises to be doing, what to be eating, what supplements to be taking, and also some self-care resources included in that, like breath work, things like that. And so overall, there was this sense of like such a comprehensive program to me, and also paired with the beautiful branding that was very luxe, that was very sophisticated, that was very smart, that was very professional, that was very cutting edge. It was literally like all of the things. And I actually shared it with a friend of mine who does similar work, actually in a company that she founded with her husband a few years ago. And I showed her like what great branding this was and how specifically she was talking and the overall messaging of it. And if I'm being really honest, when I look at that example, the truth is that had I not been kind of hooked in and pulled in by that, I don't think that I would have paid any attention otherwise. I don't think I would have taken the time to read the sales page, to be hooked in, to even be considering purchasing the program. I really considered it. To even then go out and share with my friend who is in a similar line of work. And so I share all of this because to me, this was such a great example of the importance of your positioning, of your branding, of all of the things, quite honestly, that I teach in my programs, which obviously I can't get into in this podcast. But it was just such a beautiful representation of that had I not been initially hooked in by that $1 million message that this person had I not seen that in the subject line of the email, had I then not seen and felt the beautiful and the very well-designed branding, right? And the care and the intention that went into that sales page, it to me was literally the best representation of branding that I personally have seen in the health and wellness space to this point. I will go out and I will say that. So it was by far the most well-designed, sleek, sophisticated branding that I have seen when it comes to like an exercise program or a nutritional program. And so that is the real power here that I'm talking about. Now, when it comes to coaching businesses, I will say brand is and can be slightly different. I actually don't believe that when we typically think of branding, things like your colors, your logo, like all of those things, yes, those are important to a degree, especially if you are speaking to a more sophisticated buyer. So like in that example that I shared, I would consider myself a much more sophisticated buyer. So that really spoke to me. But I will say, you don't have to nail that off the bat. What I'm really talking about here is more of being intentional about your positioning, being intentional about the messaging aspect of your brand. And yes, having great colors, having well-designed logos and just overall websites and brand, that does play into all of this. I will say that I think the market, no matter who you're speaking to is savvy enough now that I do think good branding is a non-negotiable. I don't think that you can get away with not having good branding. So there does need to be a strong brand aesthetic and have great visuals that is really aligned to the audience that you're speaking to. And along with that, what I am saying is that you also must be very intentional in your positioning to the market, in who you are speaking to, and being very, very clear on that. This program, the creator of this program, for example, if I peel this apart and use this as kind of a case study, was very, very clear on how she was positioning the program. She was very clear on who she was speaking to. And it showed in every ounce of the sales page, in the colors, in the layout, in the copy, in everything. So without that, I just think there are too many things that we are all inundated with on a daily basis that unless you're really able to hook somebody in and deeply resonate with them right off the bat, I think it gets lost in the noise. There's a lot more conversation that we could have on brand, but I want to make that point. So the next trend that I believe is also going to be a non-negotiable moving into 2025 is what I would call hybrid marketing. And again, this is something that I've been a big believer in. I've been teaching since day one. And it really is about creating a marketing ecosystem in your business. And so one of the smartest and best things that you can do for your business is to create a strong brand presence, like we've been talking about, and leverage things like social media and leverage things like YouTube and some of the, social media platforms based on your audience. And what I would also say is that it's also a non-negotiable to create a marketing system foundation that allows you to bring new people into a marketing funnel where you can drive new audiences to, where you can drive what we call traffic into. And it also really gives value to people. So let me give you an example. This might look like having a strong Instagram strategy, for example, or maybe you decide, hey, I want to go all in on YouTube. So you've got a strong YouTube strategy. It might be even speaking on stages. I've had clients that have used speaking on stages as their platform, or it could be podcasting. What I will say is that all of that is wonderful and great and important, whatever that looks like for you. And you also want to have a place where you can additionally be funneling these new audiences to, where you can layer things like paid advertising to, where you can take somebody who might hear you on your podcast or might hear you on someone else's podcast, or maybe see a YouTube video that comes across their feed, or maybe they see you on stage somewhere. The point is, it doesn't matter where you're showing up, but it's a way for you to then help them get further into your world. So one of the things that I've had a very, very strong opinion of over the years is that I don't think it's a smart move, for example, to depend just solely on one marketing channel, to depend, for example, solely on Instagram. And the reason for this is because I've seen clients who have literally come to work with me with very substantial followings. I'm talking tens of thousands of followers, some even nearing 100,000 followers on Instagram or on social media, yet not having a system, not having a funnel, having no way to really communicate consistently with their audience. And while you might be able to build a following, we also know that algorithms have shifted. And with that only a very small percentage of followers are even seeing your posts. They'll even see what it is that you're putting out. So, my friends, if you are in this for the long game, which I know you are, you have to get serious about taking things to a high multi-six, even seven-figure level and beyond. Then you also have to get very serious about your marketing. And so the things that we're talking about here today, you want to have a marketing ecosystem that is built into your business. You don't want to be fully reliant only on social media. You want to be looking for ways to continually and consistently grow your audience and then be able to offer your audience ways to receive value from you consistently week over week. And in my experience, the best way to do this for a coaching practice is to determine what that first looks like from your overall brand and positioning aspect. And then it's very important to determine how you want to show up on the different platforms and what systems, what funnels, how you are leveraging things like paid media in your overall strategy, and ensuring that all of these pieces are both happening and over time building the compound effect of growing and nurturing your audience. This is very, very important. Okay. The next trend, again, this is something that I've always had a belief in, but is no longer a nice to have, or is something that I don't think you can get away with not having, is what I call your $1 million message and having that really dialed in. So when I say that, what I mean is being able to really tap into and be very clear about who you are speaking to, having a high degree of specificity to the problem that you solve, to a very specific segment of the market. We are at a point now where there are so many options, no matter if you're in the health space or if you're in the wellness space, if you're in the relationship space, the wealth space, you must be specific. You must be dialed into a very specific audience and also have the expertise to then deliver an irresistible program or product to that audience. So I gave you one example already with the wellness program that I mentioned earlier that was blatantly clear about who she was helping. She was helping women in my age group through a very specific process that she had created, a very innovative new process, new method that she had created with a very specific result. That is the level of specificity that I'm talking about. No longer is it enough to say that you're a life coach or, for example, a life coach for women. You must be able to hone that down even more and speak to, for example, that you're a life coach for women who are healing from divorce or a life coach for female executives who are on the brink of burnout. You have to be specific. So your message, your work can actually be received by those that you're here to help. All right. Lastly, and this is a big one, again, something I have trained and coached on with all of my clients is knowing who your best and most ideal, what I would call your level 10 clients are. So think about this. In any niche, no matter who you help, there is a segment of that audience. There is an even more narrow portion of that market or that audience that are perfect clients for you, that you just love working with, where you absolutely have no concerns or questions about being able to help them achieve the result that you're promising. Every one of you has that. And those clients, those characteristics are who you want to be speaking to, are who you want to be creating your program and your outcomes around, not the masses. Because again, if you're talking to the masses, your message is getting lost in the noise. It's getting lost in all of the messages that we're receiving on a daily basis. And so one of the most important things that you can do as a coach, especially if you're serious about growing to a 7-figure level and beyond, is that you also need your clients to be a fit for you. You also need your clients to be willing to show up and to do the work. You need to protect your energy from non-fit clients because quite honestly, any non-fit client will always end up taking more energy than they're bringing to the relationship. And this is very, very important. It's something that becomes even more important as you scale and as you grow. So my friends, we've talked about a lot here. There are a lot of exciting things coming up this year. So many things to be excited about. If you haven't, please be sure to subscribe to the show. Hit that download button. I've got some great episodes lined up for you this year. Share with a colleague, share with someone you know who really needs to hear this conversation. And please, if you haven't, please rate and review the show. If you're a podcast listener, you know that ratings and reviews are one way, I believe energetically, to also give back to the value that you're receiving on a weekly basis. I want you to know that I believe in you, I see you, and I can't wait for what's in store in 2025. All right, everyone, have an amazing week. I'll talk to you all again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the $1 Million Coach Business Podcast. If you're ready to step into the $1 million version of yourself and scale your business to 6, multi-6, or 7 figures and beyond, go to amandakarlstadcoaching.com.